Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Lovely plus three. It's been a minute. I know. I've been tired, honest to God. I've been tired. As you can see, I am not at my house. I'm not doing my yard. It's been raining here in South Florida, so baby, every time I try to go out there, it's a whole bunch of rain. But today's video is about dealing with church hurt. So this is for my people of faith, people who are like legit trying to get their life together or have tried to get their life together by finding themselves in God, right? So when I first got saved, and I'm doing work too, I'm on my planning period, but when I first got saved, right, I was like 22 years old and I just wanted something more for my life, right? I just wanted something different. I didn't want to be the same mean person that I was, because I was a very mean-spirited person, in my opinion. I feel like I had a very bad attitude and I had a mindset that I'll just do it myself because I didn't want to depend on anybody. I thought that I could work, as long as I had a good work ethic, I thought I could do anything that I needed to do. But I wanted something different for myself, and I found myself like just God is tugging at my heartstrings, like to get saved. And I didn't want to give up. I'm gonna be honest. I did not want to give up certain things in this world. Grown folks, you know what that is. My students have found my YouTube channel, so can't be saying any kind of thing, you know. But it was hard to give that up. I did not want to give that up, but I felt like God was calling me to be and do something differently than what I was. And so I got saved or whatever. Started going to church every Sunday. If you don't know, I love to sing. I love to sing. I feel like at my core, I am a worshiper. So I joined the praise team. And that was my first time really doing any type of ministry, right? Let me get this out of the way. Doing any type of ministry. And when I tell you, them folks was so mean that, like, I'm like, God, there is no way that these people are Christian for real. Because I'm like, there's no way. These people are so mean and so nasty. And it's like, to me, I thought like we were singing to God, right? We are singing to our Heavenly Father. We are singing to lift up His name. And so to see how mean they were and how competitive they were just within ministry, I was always so confused, because I'm like, in my opinion, that's not what I envisioned ministry to be about. I thought ministry was something that was selfless, something that you did because God had called you to that place, not because you wanted to be exalted. You know what I'm saying? So that was a very difficult thing for me to grasp. It was very difficult for people to be so rude, because I thought that being Christian, I thought it meant that you were nice and that you were loving and that you were kind. That is what I thought. And I was so young and naive when I actually got into ministry, and I realized that these folks is so nasty. And I was like, okay, God, is it these people that are nasty, or is it this, or is it Christianity that I do not want? I apologize, I can't talk today. Is it Christianity that I do not want? And I realized it wasn't Christianity that I did not want, because I still wanted God. I still wanted to be who I believe God had called me to be. But when I was reading the word, and when I got to the part about everybody, some people are a hearer of the word but not a doer of the word, and how they only fool themselves. And then when the Bible tells you that you are neither hot nor cold, so I will spit you out of my mouth, I realized that some people they're more religious. It reminded me of the Jews in the Bible. They were religious, but they weren't in relationship. And I realized that in that moment, some people were legit just being religious, but not really, you know what I'm saying, not really deep on relationship. And I'm like, God, I don't want to be like that. I want, when people to see me, God, I want them to see the things that you stand for. I want them to see your grace. I want them to see your love and your kindness, God. So help me to be who you have called me to be, because on my own, I am legit the same. Legit the same. Nothing is great about it. But I knew I wanted more. And so fast forward, I kind of figured that out. I started doing more speaking engagements and stuff like that, which was a very amazing time. I wanted to do motivational speaking, but it kind of led into a ministry of itself because I found myself speaking more at church-related events. And I was like, well, at one point I was in training to be a minister before I met my ex-husband. So it really went far. I wrote 2 books during that time as well. But the darkest place I've ever been dealing with church hurt, as they call it, was after I got married, actually. So I was going to this church, and I was really in the ministry. I was going to Bible study. They had another service. I was going to that service. I was going to Sunday service. We were going to church like 4 days a week, and then it started being too much for Ajane. And so I kind of cut it back because I realized that my first ministry is my household. And if it's taking a toll on my daughter, then I kind of need to cut back. But anyways, I was going to this church, really a part of the ministry. And the bishop said that if you are going to date someone, bring them to me so I could check them out, because if you bring them to me after you're already in love, it doesn't matter what I say. You're going, you know what I'm saying? You're not going to really take heed to that. So I was like, okay. I was like, let me, it's this dude I like or whatever that I met. I've known him for a while, but we just reconnected. So let me bring him to you. You know what I'm saying? And so I did that. He was like, okay, seems nice or whatever. He proposed. We went through marriage counseling with them, and they gave us their blessing. I felt that he was too spiritually immature for me, and I've already shared this before. I felt that he was too spiritually immature for me, but because I trusted the guidance of my spiritual leaders over my own, I took what they said. So when they gave us their blessing, I just like, okay, well, maybe you tripping. But what upset me really, which honest to God, it really upset me, and I couldn't go to church for a while, and I know it's not God, it's the people, but I felt so betrayed. So I found out that the entire time that my ex-husband and I were dating, that he was being inappropriate with his ex, right? And so how I found it out is we couldn't find a place to live. I had to move to Orlando, couldn't find a place to live. I went on a fast. At the end of the fast, all these things start coming out. So I moved back home or whatever. But when I called my pastors to tell them, like, hey, because again, I still trusted these people. When I called my pastors to tell them about what happened, she was like, oh, and we thought that you guys weren't ready for marriage, or that he wasn't ready for marriage with you. And I was like, well, Pastor, why didn't you tell me that? I was like, because that's not what you said when we left. I said, you gave me this story about how you used to be more saved than Bishop, and now look at Bishop because you encouraged him. Look where he is. I said, not once did you guys say, hey, pump the brakes. Let's slow down a little bit. We want to continue to counsel you guys because we feel like you still need to grow in certain areas. Not once did you say that. And so I was just so taken aback that she would sit there and say that to me, knowing that that is not what she said. And she was like, well, we saw on Facebook that you guys had already gotten married. And I was like, Pastor, but from the time we got married to our last session, why didn't you call me? I mean, you've called me about other things. You've even written me on Facebook about other things. You didn't think something as important as this was worth reaching out to me? Because I trusted them so much that if they would have told me to wait, I would have waited, which is why I took him to them to begin with, because I trusted their decision making, right? I trusted their leadership and their guidance. And so in that moment when she said that, and I felt like she was trying to play me, I was like, I just can't. The lights go out sometimes if you sit still for too long. Okay. If you sit still for too long, the lights go out. But I felt like she was trying to play me, and it just really rubbed me the wrong way. I was in such a dark place of depression during that time, and I couldn't even verbally pray anymore. I felt, I mean, the best word is betrayed. I felt like extremely betrayed. I ended up blocking them on Facebook, their entire ministry, every page that they had. I just wanted nothing to do with them because I caught the pastor in lies before, but this was like a huge lie to me, and I just couldn't be associated with it. So I remember I started going, I was like, you know what, I kind of want to get away from the black church. And I'm not saying that all black churches are like this. I am simply saying, based off my experience, I needed a little less of the Pentecostal, and I needed more like speaking to my soul. I needed a little less, like you know, a lot of black churches, they have they're very charismatic. And the dark place that I was in that moment, I didn't need charisma. I just didn't need that. So I found myself at this church called Christ Fellowship, which is where I still attend today. And I remember just going to church Sunday after Sunday, not being able to pray. I mean, at first, I didn't go to church for a while. I didn't go to church for like almost a year. But then when I did start going back to church, I went to Christ Fellowship, and I would just go in there and just cry. As soon as I walk in, I would just boo-hoo cry. I would just like literally just melt, because I felt like the weight of the world. I feel like I had been bamboozled, not only by the man that I married, because he presented himself as something different, but I felt like I had been bamboozled by the people that I trusted as well, which is why I learned that God has given me the spirit of discernment, or whatever you want to call it, and that I need to trust that. And I need to trust my relationship with God, and I need to trust his voice and how he speaks to me. And I would go in there Sunday after Sunday and just cry, because I still couldn't pray. I still couldn't sing anymore. I had lost my joy, and I was just really dark. I ended up getting baptized at Christ Fellowship, and on the day that I got baptized, I remember I was so emotional, and I just continued to cry. But I was crying so bad that one of the men backstage, before you go out to get baptized, I was so overwhelmed with emotion that one of the guys just came and hugged me. And he just hugged me. He just literally hugged me. And I don't remember if he said anything, but I don't think that he did. But it was just comforting, because I felt so heavy in that moment. I really did. But that was one of the best things that I did for myself in my adult life, was get baptized again. And even when I couldn't speak verbally to God, I still continued to go to church. Or I found my way back to church, because I did not go to church for a while, but I found my way back to church. And then it got to the point where I still couldn't pray out loud, but I could at least write my prayers out in my journal, which is what I did for, honestly, a very long time. And then slowly I started to sing again. And then slowly I started to be able to pray out loud again. And when people would ask me to pray for them, for a while, I mean, I just got to the point where I'll pray for people really within the last like 7 or 8 months. But people used to always call me to pray for them because I was a part of ministry. But during that time, I'm like, baby, I can't pray for you. I don't feel like I am in a position where I can cover you in that way. And I had to be honest about it. I had to be honest about how I felt. I had to be honest about the anger and the resentment I felt against those that I felt like betrayed me within the church. And I had to take it back to God. They are people. They are people. They did not tell the truth. They lied. They are still people. They are not your God. You may go through a process, but don't lose God because you're upset with people. Don't lose God because a person hurt you. Don't lose God. Don't let go of God because of what they did to you. And when I tell you, God, that thing has literally saved my life and has got me back into my word. It has gotten me back to a place where I fast consistently. It has gotten me back to a place of where I tithe. Oh my gosh. I started tithing in 2020. Where I started giving a larger offering in 2020, and then over time it has been able to grow. But when I tell you in 2020, when I made that decision that I'm going to start giving to God, changed my life. It literally changed my life. It has changed my life. It has changed my life. And I'm so grateful And I'm so full. I'm not gonna cry. I'm so grateful and I'm so full, and I'm just so happy with what God has done in my life and how he has redeemed me. And I will never forget. I will never forget how God has set me free in the things that have taken place in my life. And it's like when my back was against the wall, God made a way. So for me, dealing with church hurt, it took time. It was not something that I dealt with overnight. It was a years long, multiple years process. And I just, at the end of the day, I had to go take it back to God, because they are people and they are going to people. And even as Christians, they are going to people. But I want to say this to people who are believers, because I think it's important. I think it is important to make a decision what you are going to stand for, right? Because sometimes you may be the only God that people see. You may be the only God that people experience, or you may be the only way that people experience God, correct? They have to see the God in you. One of my favorite verses says, let that light shine so bright that they may see you and praise your Father which are in heaven. People need to see God in you. People need to see the kindness and the love of God. Are you willing? What will you do? My friend yesterday, her tire was flat. We're coworkers, but we're also friends. Her tire was flat. And I was like, hey girl, I'll give you a ride to your mom's house. And she's like, I'll call her. I was like, no, I'll give you a ride or whatever. You know, I paid somebody to pick my kids up yesterday, so I don't have to rush and get them. So I took her to her mom's house. And then when I woke up this morning, I saw I had a text from her. And I want to read the text because it literally had me emotional. She said, Miss Lyman, thank you so much for taking me to my mom's yesterday. Child, I'm quick to cry, but it really brought me to tears yesterday night to know that I have support in you and how you sprung into action to help me. I love you, friend. I really appreciate you being there for me. There was a nail in my tire. They were able to patch it, but I'm going to replace it in a couple of weeks. And it made me think of, like, you know how sometimes we'll say, well, I want to pray on it. I'm going to pray for you. And sometimes you don't need to pray. All you need to do is do. If you have the capability to help someone, do it. Do it. That is the verse I'm going to leave you guys with today. Let that light shine so bright that they may see you and praise your Father which are in heaven. Guys, I will be posting one of my yard videos because my yard is a mess soon, but I really wanted to share dealing with church hurt and try to overcome it because it has been on my heart for the last few weeks. So, of course, and as always, until next time, God bless you. Bye-bye.